to BizBlend podcast listeners, where strategy meets soul and bold ideas they brew into breakthroughs. I'm your host Sana, and today we are diving into this is one of my favorite topics, listeners. This is disrupting boardrooms and career paths right now everywhere. The integration of artificial intelligence (AI), as we know, with emotional intelligence (EQ. We'll explore how this fusion, when guided by neuroscience and conscious leadership, can radically transform the future of work. And listeners, let me introduce my guest to all of you. She is Sonja Price, a powerhouse career strategist, leadership futurist, and also founder of Dynamo Careers. And she's helped high level professionals at companies like Google, Amazon, and Meta navigate promotions, build magnetic personal brands, and also lead with impact in times of disruption. But Sonia's magic, it lies beyond her accolades, listeners. She brings humanity into high performance. And today we are going to unpack how strategy, soul, and smarts, when all of them come together to help professionals, they help in not just surviving, but truly thriving. So, with that, Sonia, welcome to the show. And I am extremely honored to have you here with us.
Oh, thank you, Sana. I am so honored to be here on your show with you. Thanks for having me.
Sonia, so yeah, of course, it's everywhere. AI is everywhere. We all are talking about it. Some kind of, quite an anxious filled conversation on how it's going to kind of take up our jobs. But then there are conversations where I think, it's such a healthy discussion around how AI can actually complement your work. And now, when we bring the role of EQ into this, emotional intelligence, I would love to know how EQ plays an important role in making sure humans stay at the center of innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the way that I see it, AI is an incredible engine. It would be silly, it would be stupid to not be engaging with AI in all of the various ways that it is coming to market right now. And we're going to continue to see more and more and more different types of solutions that come through with AI. So, AI is this crazy powerful engine that is moving, at 1,000 miles an hour, even faster than we can even fathom, right? Like, that's probably way too small. Emotional intelligence, I really see that as the steering wheel. We need to be engaging with our emotional intelligence to ensure that we don't burn out and we don't crash. Because if we're not putting the proper strategy behind all of this, who knows? Who knows where this will take us, right? But with emotional intelligence, it really requires us to be more self-aware, more self-regulated because we live in an incredibly disruptive, anxiety-filled state right now. And so the more that we can self-regulate our nervous systems and care for ourselves in the midst of all of this change, the less that will be driven by fear and the more that we truly can have the ability to utilize this as a tool to thrive. Um, it's really about self awareness, self regulation, motivated, staying focused and resilient in pursuit of the goals that truly matter. And then empathy, you know, understanding not just our own point of view, but understanding other people's perspectives and emotions and how that should fit into our decision making and all of the things that we do on a day in, day out basis. And then, of course, our social skills, like just knowing how to influence, how to lead, how to influence, and how to build trust based relationships. Trust is going to become increasingly more and more important because the more AI that comes online, the more that people will have, a fake detector. They'll be detecting, looking, and scanning for fake things. So the more that we can have trust based relationships, that truly is the fuel that will take us through to the future.
And the last part is such an important aspect of this, Sonia. You just hit the nail in there because it's kind of getting very obvious to identify that um, if a content is completely AI based, or it's just, simply copy paste and stuff, or it's having that human element into it. In fact, in messages and conversations happening online, any type of content that we are seeing right now. So I think that last part, it really hits home for me, and I'm very sure for our listeners as well. And Sonia, do you think most current leaders, they are equipped for this um, emotional agility, or is this a gap we are not addressing fast enough?
Well, I think it's a gap that we have not been addressing fast enough,
Mhm.
and it's been we definitely do have emotionally intelligent leaders, and all of us have some form of emotional intelligence. But in general, even if AI did not exist, I still think that we would have a gap in emotional intelligence skills. So I personally see it as one of the top leadership skills required to really make an effective difference as a leader in a way that you can have greater spanning impact and influence where, you can always be a leader, but what level of leader do you wanna be and what level of impact do you want to have? And in my mind, the more emotionally intelligent you are, the more that you can read situations and understand people, therefore having greater influence.
Exactly. And I want to bring in the aspect of energy here. And it's a bit of a kind of offbeat to the world of business and leadership, but still, because we are integrating EQ into this, I think each of us have energy, and someone who is emotionally active, and they understand the essence of humanity in there, the human aspect in there. They'll understand the energy in there. That whether it's getting faked or something else is there, it's kind of masking it. So I could completely connect with what you said.
Absolutely. I think authenticity is really a human superpower, and that's something that AI will never be able to replicate.
True. And Sonia, also bringing in the element of neuroscience. I mean, gosh, it has revealed so much about how we process uncertainty and change. So, how can professionals leverage this understanding to lead themselves and their teams more effectively in an AI driven world?
Yeah, absolutely. We can talk about neuroscience. We can also talk about nervous system regulation, which I think is a really important component and maybe even a precursor to neuroscience because if your nervous system is not calm and regulated, it's very difficult to have the executive functioning in our brains, and that's what we need to have to make the best decisions and think strategically and have rationality behind why we do the things that we do. And when a person's nervous system is jacked up, like high and dysregulated because we constantly have, cell phones and alert systems going off in every which direction, it makes it very difficult for us to be able to keep ourselves calm and also be able to focus and have extreme clarity in what we're doing in that moment. And sometimes it's the small things that might sound small, but it's actually very big. So being able to operate from a calm, grounded, centered place really can make a huge influence and impact on the decisions that each of us make and how we shape and grow our own futures and the collective future together.
Totally, totally. And since you bring in the nervous system regulation in there, I think we cannot ignore burnout, especially for leaders or entrepreneurs in here. So I would love to bring in your journey, your story here into the conversation, if it's all right. So
Oh, wow.
you
Yeah.
you moved from the corporate America, then the layoffs, and now you are committed to this mission, helping ambitious professionals, to be stay relevant in this ever evolving world, resilient, and then also we are kind of marked by economic uncertainties. We are seeing still we are seeing layoffs, whether it's triggered by pandemic or recession or uh, AI. So our listeners would love to know that journey. I mean, what made you found Dynamo Careers, and what's your mission here?
Hmm. Well, I actually have two organizations that I founded and run. So the first is Dynamo Careers, which is focused on helping individuals up level their career, get promoted, make more money, find jobs that are more in alignment with their values, and gives them better work life balance.
Mm.
So that's what I do with Dynamo Careers. With Infinite Leaders, I help executive leadership teams create cohesion so that there's, greater trust, commitment, more effective communications, and where a place where people hold each other accountable so that the entire team is creating the kinds of impacts that are desired versus having siloed systems where people are oftentimes, working in their own agendas. My personal journey with burnout, I've worked in consulting, I've held a number of different, like, corporate full-time roles, and then I decided to branch out on my own because I really wanted to make an impact with people and ensure that we have conscious leaders who are in the right roles at the right levels, running organizations, making decisions on behalf of all of us. And then also with Infinite Leaders is having greater team cohesion. Um, and you were asking me about burnout. It's a real deal. Like, it's a huge epidemic these days. Many people that I talk to are so burnt out that they're not like they may not be working in their most effective way, and the longer that people do this to themselves and allow organizations, allow people inside of organizations to, do it to each other, it is part of a culture. It doesn't have to be that way, and the more aligned that a team is, the less that people have to work and scramble and put out fires and deal with office politics, where we can actually be more effective and hopefully reduce the actual pain points that are causing the symptoms of burnout. Um, and I have a whole lot more that I could say about burnout because I've personally struggled with it myself. And I actually have a 5-minute story on my website that I shared about my personal story with burnout and how I've overcome it. And so if you'd like to listen to that, you can check out infiniteleaders.co, and it's on the speaking page. There's a 5-minute video dedicated to me telling my own personal story about burnout, which I'm happy to share more here too if you'd like.
Please go ahead, Sonia. I would love to know. Listeners would love to know about it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think so when I quit working for a consulting organization about 9 years ago now, I was incredibly burnt out. And that was on top of, 15 years of jobs that were just very little work-life balance. And so when I stepped away from that work and I started my own organization, I started it for 2 reasons. And one was is that I could have greater freedom and flexibility with my time. The second was that I saw that there was, I felt as though there was no income ceiling, no compensation ceiling. and and what I found was, and I guess I'd love to share a quote by Richard Branson, which is the entrepreneurs are the crazy ones who work 4 times as hard, 4 times as many that work, God, what sorry, I messed up the quote. Um, they work 4 times as hard just so they don't have to work 40 hours a week for someone else or, something like that. And that's true. When you start your own organization, I think that there's a common misconception that you're just gonna get to do client work all the time, or you're going to get to focus on whatever reason that you started the business. But then there's a very rude wake up call that's like, oh no, you're responsible for every single part of the business. You have to do marketing and sales and accounting and taxes and operations and hiring and firing and all of the different things. So Um, I'm so grateful that I started a business and that I've pursued this path. It hasn't been everything that I thought it was gonna be, and in some ways, it's been so much more than I thought it was gonna be, and in other ways, there were just some big surprises about the sheer amount of hard work that is required to be successful in doing your own thing. But I've had to learn how to have boundaries. I've had to learn how to, step away from my computer at a certain time. I've had to learn how to take more frequent vacations. Um, and sometimes I need a personal day just like everyone needs personal days from time to time. And so sometimes you really do just have to clear your calendar and say, I really just need to focus on myself today so that I can be my best again tomorrow.
That is so, I mean, I can so much relate to that, Sonia, because um I'm really fortunate that I'm able to see both sides of the coin, being an employee, working directly with founders and owners. Um, but then right now I'm in a place where I am seeing something getting started from scratch, taking that
Mhm.
to build, to kind of, conceptualized and seeing something, it's kind of growing. It's like a, baby, taking birth and then growing up. So the sheer amount of hard work, focus, dedication, both physically and mentally, I think spiritually as well. It's I think I've such a huge respect for all the entrepreneurs and founders, all the builders out there. Um, I completely agree with you. And yes, it is so essential to take mindful breaks in between, have good sleep, have good diet, movement, and the most
Mhm.
important part is the emotional
Staying
connection.
hydrated.
Yeah, the emotional connection with yourself and your loved ones, because
Absolutely. Mhm.
and that's where, it's kind of the tricky part, the double-edged sword. Like, you cannot ignore your, the thing that you're building. You cannot ignore your business, but then also at the same time, you cannot ignore yourself and your loved ones. So I think that's, something which I believe is a tricky part.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then Sonia, some critics argue that, integrating EQ into business strategy, it slows down execution. How do you respond to leaders who see emotional intelligence, as a soft skill that interferes with efficiency, all driven by data and output and numbers and stuff?
Yeah. Well, I actually don't think of EQ as a soft skill anymore. I actually think that it is very quickly becoming the ultimate leadership hard skill because of the nature of the way that our workforce is changing and the way our markets are changing and what people are looking to for leadership now. Um So, it is one of those kinds of things, like, to truly learn it and integrate it. I mean, anyone can learn it at any point in time, but to integrate it can be a kind of situation where it's a, "Hey, let's slow down now in order to go fast later." Because, we keep saying emotional intelligence, but there is much more beyond that and ancillary to that and cousins of that, right? Because building trust inside of organizations is incredibly important, and if you don't have trust across all various different relationships in an organization, it can become increasingly difficult to actually get things done. When you have inherent trust, people will go above and beyond to help out, to provide information, to keep the ball rolling. When trust is not there, people withdraw, they withhold information, and they can sometimes make it incredibly difficult just to get things done. So, you never want to be working in an environment where it feels like there are people working against each other. Everyone should be working together. And to create an environment of collaboration, it does you have to have things like emotionally intelligent leaders, emotionally intelligent employees. There's got to be trust. There has to be commitment. There has to be accountability. Um, and ultimately having everyone enrolled in a shared mission and vision as much as possible. Now, I know that people work for a job because most people just need to work to make money, but the more that you can show what's in it for people and why should they care and why should they be enrolled in this particular mission, that's super important. And and to have, have harmony in the culture and to have collaboration, like, all of these things have to exist and be working simultaneously together.
Absolutely. That's very well said. And Sally, just another kind of extension to this, um, and it's a bit of a flip side that um, if EQ is such a superpower, why are so many emotional intelligent leaders they're overlooked for promotion compared to more aggressive performers? It's still prevalent in workplaces where people or employees who are aggressive, they are very much number driven, number focused. Yeah, he or she is performing. I don't care if he or she has a bad attitude or something, but at least they're giving the output, so it doesn't harm. What would you say to that?
Yeah. Well, again, kind of going back, if there is a lack of trust or not an adequate amount of trust inside of teams, then that's when people, you know, withhold or become more competitive, so then it's like when people are have kind of a competitive mentality, oftentimes it's comes from a fear-based mentality where it's like, "Oh, there's not enough resources to go around, so I need to withhold information and hold these resources to myself because maybe I need to use it to my advantage in some sort of way." That's one aspect of it, and sometimes that's conscious and sometimes it's unconscious because I think that in the greater world and environments that we live in, we have to look at, okay, well, who are our models for leadership, and are we taking on some of those same tendencies? And the type of leadership that you're describing or that mentality and that way of being in a work environment where maybe it's more aggressive, more competitive, I definitely see I hope, at least my hope is that that's a way of the past and that we are growing more conscious leaders. Um, it's tough to say that with what I'm seeing in my country's politics and administration right now, but, you know, I I do think that younger generations are much more attuned to the more conscious ways of leadership, and the more that we focus on that and the more that we bring that into the mix, which can include things like having a more diverse leadership team. The more diverse that an organization can be, we can allow for and encourage different viewpoints, which has actually been proven to help organizations be more successful in the marketplace because you have a diverse leadership team, you get different perspectives, you get different outcomes. And, sometimes I find that when there's that very competitive type of work environment, you also kind of have to scan and evaluate, okay, well, what is the leadership team comprised of and what is the mentality at the top? And then is there a trickle down effect of that throughout the organization that can then lead people to feel like they need to be competitive or that they need to be aggressive so that they can survive and get promoted and have greater responsibilities.
That really makes sense. Great. So, Sonia, if listeners they would like to connect with you and get access to all the work that you do at Dynamo Careers and also Infinite Leaders, what would be the best way?
Absolutely. Please come check out my websites at dynamocareers.com. And that's Dynamo careers, careers.com. That's if you need help and support in getting promoted, you're looking to land a new role, you want to make more money, myself and my team would be happy to support you there. And then with Infinite Leaders, it's infinite, Infinite, leaders, and it's .co. So infiniteleaders.co. And there, I'd love to help work with executive teams, creating more cohesion, greater strategy, greater alignment, shared commitment, and better communication and accountability and support overall. So reach out to me on either of my websites. I'm also on LinkedIn. I spend quite a bit of time there. So you can look me up on LinkedIn. It's Sonja, Sonja Price, Price. And I'd love to connect with you.
Wonderful. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes. And Sonia, your insights. I feel they are a masterclass in what it means to lead from the inside out. We not only just discussed about the tech acceleration, but definitely about the emotional depletion. I think your message is both a kind of a warning and a welcome. So thank you so, so much.
Oh, thank you, Sana. It's been wonderful being on your show.
Thank you. Thank you to all the listeners out there as well. If you are feeling the shift, don't just adapt, lead it. Follow Sonia's work at Dynamo Careers and Infinite Leaders. Connect with her on LinkedIn and just refer to the show notes along with this episode. And until next time, keep blending bold ideas with a big heart. This is Sana signing off from BizBlend. Thank you.